Nā mai haere mai ki te uri ngā mihi nui e hao ina hao e wha. Welcome to this committee meeting, the Regional Transport Committee meeting. And I'm being advised that the recording has started for the meeting. The meeting will be recorded and I will open the meeting with a karakia. We seem to have had about 3 or 4 karakias. Protocol. We need to stick to protocol. So, Whakatau te mai ki te uru, ka hikatia, whakatūria mai ki te uru tāmatua. Koutua rana pakia ka tia, koutua rana kaupeka hia, kia rangi whawha, kia eo rangi. He whakamaru, he whakaruru hau, iti iwi e. Ui, wiru, hau mai te mori, homi e, ui e, ai. Thank you. So we have a quorum, so I declare this meeting open. I don't think there are any changes to the order of business, Oliver. We have an apology from Mayor Munro from the Mackenzie District. Have not been made aware of any conflicts of interest. We will have one public forum today. So we have with us today Julia and Julia McLean, and also Hugh. And I think you should sit up too, Hugh, actually. Come and sit up at the table, please. Sorry, just before, just one thing I'd like to raise later is in our long-term budget, we had some money to be spent on the assessment of the road from Christchurch to Canterbury. I just want to ask later on how that progress. That additional piece of business. We'll put it. Yeah. All right. So thank you. Thank you. Sorry for that. And Julia is going to film Delia, and Delia, you are doing submission. Now, Delia, the rules are that you have 10 minutes, and then at 9 minutes we'll give you a wee ding, so you know where you are, and then after that there will be the opportunity for the mayors to be able to ask you some questions. So when you're ready, away you go.
Hello, my name is Delia. This issue we are discussing today must include young people. This is my voice. Why horse riders don't feel safe on our roads. Let me start the story. Louise was out riding her horse when she heard a truck approaching. She waved it down frantically because she knew if he didn't slow down, there wasn't going to be enough room for both on the road. The truck driver didn't slow down. Louise's horse bolted and she fell off, landing on the road in front of the truck, which had finally stopped. She told me she doesn't ever want to land a couple of metres in front of a truck again. And this is why road users in New Zealand need to be educated on how to safely share the road. This issue is worldwide and has been on the radio, television and in the newspaper. Horses do not have the same rights as other traffic on the road. According to the Land Transport Road User Rulebook, horse riders are labelled as other road user in legislation. This label comes with no benefits at all. In reality, it means horse riders don't feature in road safety messaging or campaigns. So if there are no safety messages, how do new drivers, foreign drivers, or sea people travelling out into the rural area know what to do when they see a horse and rider on the road? This story will show you why some drivers need more education. I have experienced mixed behaviour from drivers when I have ridden my pony on the road. It's not a nice feeling, and I'm not the only one that feels like that. One day, I was riding down Amberley Beach Road. I was wearing my high-vis vest so I'd be seen. So many cars passed me and my pony so fast and so close. I felt scared, as I could literally touch the cars. My pony was scared too, but I managed to control him. This is what horse riders need from drivers on the road. Please, faster, wide and slow. This means give us at least 2 metres space and slow down as you drive past. Remember, horses are a flight animal, which means that in a situation where they feel scared, their natural instinct is to run. Riders are doing their very best to manage the horse, but that's made harder if there are rattling trailers with lightning plastics moving fast, cars that backfire or horns tooted, but most of all, travelling too close. And you may think, Surely this doesn't happen, but it certainly does. I've listened to many horse riders' experiences on the road. How you drive not only affects riders, but other road users as well. Please share this message with your friends and family. But as decision makers, please use your voice to support us, to make our roads safer for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to speak, Jimmy?
Canterbury Regional Transport Committee. This story started in Canterbury, and a couple of months ago I appealed to you to please lead and listen. And again, I stand before you as the voice for the entire equestrian community. In that space, since I last spoke to many of you at Council, over 31 organisations have been to their boards, their membership network, and have come back and stand with me as their spokesperson on the Vulnerable Road User campaign, where we are going to Parliament on the 15th of October to present a petition calling for horse riders to be formally recognised as a vulnerable road user, an inquiry into road user behaviour affecting vulnerable road users to include horse riders if they have to go down that avenue, because we've shaped it in a way with advice from a transport legislative policy writer that we're not doing all this mahi and not coming away with an outcome that actually makes horse riders safer in our community than what we currently have. The current legislation is not fit for purpose. With the other road user label, we don't feature in any road safety messaging, if any education campaigns. No longer are theory or practical testing at driving schools for heavy or vehicle licences featuring any information about how to approach and pass a horse rider. New Zealand police effectively have the power to enforce, but again, after speaking and meeting with them, it is a case of legislation. So New Zealand police, we have managed to get to head office now to offer road safety material, because in the interim, whilst we work to go to Parliament for the legislative change, we're also canvassing stories of near misses on the road, because no agency captures what is happening. And it's those stories, one of which Dee referred to, that are frightening, they're frequent, and they've been going on for decades. And I have witnessed a community of people that have been sad, let down, quiet, and they are now feeling hopeful, listened to, and are sharing. So I sent you a snapshot of some of the stories I'm hearing. They're just a few. You've got dead horses, hurt people, and trauma where people are giving up their passion, their sport. They don't have places to ride because that other road user label, sadly, means that councils around this country can interpret when and where they want to include horse riders in their conversation. It's the same for Whakakapi, when and where they want to include them in consultation. Sometimes you get consultation where they're referred to as a vulnerable road user, and that is why I reached out to Whakakapi long ago and said, you know, I feel like I've got a brain injury. I read your road code and I don't actually know what we are. Tell us what we are. That's when it was confirmed that we don't have a definition in our transport literature. For me as a former journalist, that was the crux of the whole issue. And so if we can get some consistency at local government level, at central government level, it all falls back, sadly, onto the labelling. It was when I looked at the UK Highway Code that I just sat up and thought, jeepers, we've got a case here. But it was when the Western Australia Council sent me their road user inquiry findings, where in Australia horses aren't considered a vulnerable road user, but after they did that inquiry, they're now walking towards putting horse riders as a vulnerable road user, and a suite of changes being recommended that I would love this country to follow. That includes signs that say underneath, pass wide and slow, because we're not an animal that you just swerve to avoid on the road. Or a review panel that includes vulnerable road users making up transport planning. Or just reviewing the idea of how fast should you actually be going past a horse and rider. I'm not going down the rabbit warren of speed, but what we are doing on the 14th and 15th of September is joining the UK, America, Canada, Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand is punching above its weight with the first time that we've participated in a worldwide pass wide and slow campaign. I've registered over 40 rides. I'm encouraging organisers across the country from the far north to the south to do their own homework and reach out to their respective councils, their respective police officers, because this is a time to reset, to build relationships and understanding of what our rights are, but also councils how they can look after, police can look after us. Because we do feel like the forgotten. South Canterbury, this is where this journey started for me personally, because I couldn't understand why riders in South Canterbury were miserable, angry, sad at trying to participate, being locked out, and then telling me that all they have are gravel roads to ride on, and then the behaviours that come with that. North Canterbury, wow, we have choice, we have safe places to take our children to learn to ride, we are looked after, and yet I didn't understand how you got such flippant messaging. So please do your own homework. Please understand that this is a time for change. Other parts of the world are leading. New Zealand needs to participate in this conversation on behalf of horse riders, but you know what? There's the Safest Cycling Foundation that yesterday want to stand with me on this. Pass wide and slow applies to every kind of vulnerable road user. So I'm going to leave it with you. Other than you are the 4th Council Regional Transport Committee I've spoken to, 3 out of 3 are supportive of our message to the Transport Minister, to the Ministry of Transport, that we have a legitimate case and cross-party political support.
Julia, question Dan, I think you had your hand up for. Thank you, and firstly, thank you, and thank you. Peter and I had the opportunity to come and meet you a few months back, and thank you for the offer to ride the horse, but as you know, I have a fear of them. It's not that I love horses myself, but I was thrown many, many years ago, but I'll get back there one day. Yeah. Julia, can I just be clear, and Delia, is it the 15th of October or the 15th of September that you're going to Parliament? Chair Peter, I just wonder if it's possible to consider, normally we would probably call for a report, but it's going to be before we meet, whether it's something that perhaps if there was a view here, we could co-write a letter that would support this call, that perhaps Julia could take to Parliament with her when she goes. I certainly would support that, because I think it's a good case being put here, but I'll leave that to you to consider whether that's appropriate, colleagues, something that could be circulated amongst us to sign and perhaps endorse at our next meeting. But it just seems to me, if you're going to Parliament, it'd be nice to go with our supported colleagues who are in agreement, and that's something that potentially could be circulated. But thank you, Delia. You spoke really well and articulated strongly the views of the equestrian community, which is really important. And Julia, appreciate the work you're doing.
No. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, great advocacy, well done. I would support Dan's actions actually. I think it would be good to show some support. I love the slogan. It's simple, it's distinct, and it gives some good messaging, not only for horses but other road users that are in that vulnerable category. So yeah, good work. Well done.
Thanks, Julia. I was just wondering if we do choose to ride the letter, is it useful for us to write to New Zealand Transport Agency for them to define what a vulnerable road user is, And I know that in a document when you presented to Environment Canterbury previously, the World Health Organization provides a definition of that. Is that the kind of definition you're seeking in New Zealand?
Yeah, so yes, non-motorist, and it's the European Commission where that quote came from, and I love the verification process by the Petitions Committee, where everything I state has to be verified. So that petition being out in the community, you can be sure that, you know, those statements are true and correct, that are within that. But yes, it's a non-motorist. It's refer to the UK Highway Code with respect to, they go as far as a hierarchy of vulnerability, where, you know, if you have the, you know, those who carry the greatest ability to cause harm have the biggest responsibility to look after. And when I read that, that was just such a game changer for mindset change. So that's why that inquiry into road user behaviour could actually benefit this country so much.
One last comment. Comment, James. You've got to solve that problem first.
You know me, Peter, I complicate problems, but more often than I solve them. Look, thank you. If we are minded to write, and I personally would support us doing so, just to be clear from an NCTA point of view, I think you should write to us, but you shouldn't just write to us, because this is land transport, it's a complicated wiring diagram. It really is important that this is raised with the Minister. It's the Minister who writes the government policy statement. That dictates how much, for example, how much money we have to market and to educate people about how to treat vulnerable road users. So if you get a definitional change, but you don't market to them, all you've done is you've changed the rule and not told anyone about it. That's a problem. We write land transport rules, but we do it on behalf of the ministry. So the ministry has to want the change, which means the minister has to want the change. So there is a cascade here, and so you're doing everything right. I just think for us, yes, copy us in or write to the Director of Land Transport as well, but the minister and the ministry is as good a place to start as ever.
Thank you for that. Look, we've noted, the comments have been noted. I think there is some wide support for this. I think the point that you've made, James, is that we need to get this in the right place to have the effect. Obviously, in reference to the fact that you've been into other councils also, then we'll take that into account. But we have a resolution here which says a reply to Julia and McLean as soon as practical is true. So that will be included in, so that's where we put that in place.
Can I just share with you that I speak, North Canterbury is no longer, it's Canterbury, so I'm the chair of Canterbury, but I'm the spokesperson for the New Zealand Equestrian Advocacy Network and the lead on the Vulnerable Road User campaign. Blech. And
Julia, we'll take North out, and then you can apply the rest of that stuff that you just said to it yourself. So we'll just take North out of that first one.
our capability has just grown so much with respect to, a woman has joined me that formerly worked for NZTA in the road safety marketing area, and she has just brought this campaign to a new level, and we can now go to Whakakapi, who are replying to me tomorrow, New Zealand Police, the trucking sector, and tell them we can supply the messaging that we know will save lives, because I know money is always short. So if we can do it, we just need the yes. And it is the difference of saving lives, because we've warned these, and the behaviour that we're seeing from motorists is different.
Well, Julia, thank you very much. Look, we won't extend this any further than now, so could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Murray, and the sector. Thank you, Craig. So moved by Mayor. Yeah, I see that. Moved by Mayor Black from Hurunui, and seconded by Mayor Mackle from Kaikoura. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against. That's carried. Now, thank you, Delia. I just must comment on your ability to stand up. And I know you had notes in front of you. You spoke pretty much off the cuff, and that's outstanding for a young lady like you. And I must also comment that you were reasonably still during the whole thing. I mean, for a young boy, you've done really well. So thank you, Julia. I've got grandson about your age, and he would sit there. So thank you, Julia, for that. Now I'm just going to adjourn for a second. We've got a young gentleman down the back called Toby Lorimer. Toby's come to talk to us. So I just want to check something with you, Toby, before we proceed. All right, so I'll adjourn from there. Look, I'm sorry about that, but we'll get going again. We had a young fella come here want to talk to us about bus fares, and I just think this is not the right forum to do that in, so I'll push him in the right direction. He'll be back either to our strategy and policy committee or our full council to make a deputation to us. And we'll get him on the right track and get him some better information. Really quite brave again of a young man to come in here. Saw transport, though he's not journey. So just moving to 4.2, deputations and petitions, there are none. Extraordinary business, there isn't any. 6 notices of motion, there are none. Unconfirmed minutes on pages 11 to 17 of your agenda from the 30th of May. Any corrections or words to be amended? We'll put that motion up. So there's the motion. If there's no corrections or amendments, would someone like to move that, please? That was there. Thank you. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Murray. So moved by Mayor Broughton, seconded by Mayor Black. Any discussion? There's no discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, that's carried. Thank you very much. 8.1, Regional Transport Committee, resolutions and status reports. I've got Jess who will introduce this.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this paper is to provide the committee with visibility on the resolutions from the previous committee meetings. Most of the resolutions are green or in progress. The only one I'd probably draw your attention to is around the funding for the rail work, investigations work that was requested by the committee to Environment Canterbury to consider including funding in the LTP for the market development rail investigation utilisation study. So the funding has been included in our LTP, but it's in year 2, not year 1. That was a conversation the council had when deliberating on their LTP, and decided to shift that funding into year 2. So just to update the committee in that respect. So that work will commence once that's the main one. Other than that, the resolutions that relate to the RPTP, the Regional Public Transport Plan, you're considering that for public consultation on this agenda today. So happy to take any other questions, otherwise in train.
If there's any questions just about that, if there are none, recommendation that notes the status of previous resolution provided in the Canterbury Regional Transport Committee Resolution Status Report, August 2024. I'll move around a second after that. So, moved by Sam, seconded by James, moved by Mayor Broughton, seconded by James Cogle. Any discussion? There's no discussion on that. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, that's carried. So 8.2 then, which is the Regional Public Transport Plan 2025-35 Development Update. So Liam Fleet, Senior Strategy Advisor, Public Transport to introduce the report now. It's about 100 pages long in your agenda. It's a good document. I've been through a couple of iterations of this with council and stuff, and it's a good document, but there's some key points in it I think that we just need to note. So Liam, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you. As Chair Scott mentioned, that this is about the Regional Public Transport Plan, the draft Regional Public Transport Plan that we've been preparing for the last few months. We've met with you folk over the course of the last 6 months and discussed this. The plan that basically within your agenda, you have a copy of the plan and also a copy of the consultation document that will accompany the plan as we go out for consultation on this. The consultation document's obviously still very draft, so it's what we're trying to do there is to camp down the 130 odd pages of draft Regional Public Transport Plan into 5 or 6 pages so that are digestible for people and that highlight the issues that we want to hear some feedback on. That doesn't stop anybody from commenting on anything in the plan. It's just highlighting those issues that we're changing within the plan that we feel that there's need for feedback on. So essentially the purpose of today is to have you receive that report, receive the copy of the consultation document, and also to note that the terms of reference for the hearings panel committee that has been formed have been changed slightly to allow for replacement representatives on that committee, which was something I think that at the last meeting of the council here, the committee here, you guys asked for us to have it in the terms of reference. So they have been amended accordingly. So I'm happy to take any questions in light of that.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I think that point was also brought through at GCP because of possible conflicts. So any changes in those, if he can change, will be either grant or I, but the mayoral changes will be from within this room. Yeah. Question on public transport history doesn't have public transport. We do have community vehicle sector, but I don't see that in here. So where does we submitted many times in the weekend long-term plan and value plans for public transport, we're working through it, but there's no mention of it here. Should it be? We haven't got
the refresh of the public transport plan that we're doing, but this iteration of the plan really rests on decisions that have been made in the last 6 years between the last plan, 2018-19, to now. So a lot of the content has been refreshed to reflect those decisions that have been made. That doesn't preclude anybody from coming along and saying, look, and Ashburton or yourselves coming along and saying, look, we think that we want a variation to the plan at some point, and signalling that. For that to happen, money needs to obviously be put aside in long-term plans to business cases to prove or disprove the value of the proposed change, and also there has to be obviously money put aside or a targeted rate put aside to actually pay for the eventual running of that service. So
yeah, sorry, Liam, but I think the point that you're trying to make is this is the plan that's already in place, and it's just a refresh of that plan. I think there's a really good point, Neil, actually, that Ashburton District might want to come and make a representation to a submission to the plan on the stuff that you brought up. So that's any, but no.
This is just in regards to the comms plan, I guess, and I'm looking at page 111. It's in regard to community vehicle trust, and I feel a little. I just don't think the wording that's been put in that draft reflects what a community vehicle trust means to a rural community. And the wording that we always use is that the community vehicle trust is a dignified option in the absence of public transport. And I actually think that that better reflects the purpose of the vehicle trust. And if I can be really picky, I think you could rephrase the word smaller communities to rural communities because, I think if people are going to read this, they need to understand that there is a purpose around that that could be better worded, in my opinion.
Sorry, any other questions of Len? Look, I think this is a good document. I mean, the things that are in there that we recognise are the evolution of the spatial plan, the progress of MRT, so that's the project stuff. The uplift required to get us to where we need to get to in terms of the GCP stuff, in terms of PT with future business case, frequency, faster, more direct routes in Christchurch City, and then so on, and also Waimakariri. Changes to our fares policy, maybe that will cost $1 billion. Change to our fares policy for the affordability, which is one of those things that we're going to face going forward. The motu move, the NGS, National Ticketing System effect, what effect that will have across Canterbury, because that's a game changer for everybody. More zero emission buses. So where are we headed with our emissions on transport? And then the biggest thing I think is the emergence of the public transport futures away from the old model, and what's our ability to interact with that. So what does public transport look like in 10 or 15 years? Does it still exist within this building? Does it all end up? We had our really in-depth conversations, Phil and Dan and also Sam, about what we want. So I think we're at a real key time, and we know that National Land Transport Fund is not a Christmas party for us. Maybe a Christmas party if you're north of Hamilton, but not for us. So interesting times for us with this. All right, we'll put that up. Thanks. It's just noting those things about the hearings panel. So you've had time to read all those, or if you've read more. So this is just note that this is an updated staff recommendation. So James, you want to move this? Moved by James, seconded by Mayor Bowen. So moved by James Cagle, seconded by Mayor Nigel Bowen from Peru. All those in favour, please. Any further discussion on that? I don't see there's any coming. So all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, that's carried. So thank you very much for that. So 8.3. The interesting one for me was the GPS in terms of where we sit with that. We've got Claire Patterson there if you want to come to the table. The Principal Strategy Advisor, Air Quality Transport and Urban Development, to introduce this. Claire, thank you.
Kia ora koutou. So yes, this is a paper to update you on where the government policy statement for land transport has landed. I think of this as what I'm thinking of as the bunny hop GPS. So you kind of like hop 2 hops forward and a hop to the right. And for public servants, they've kind of been swung round the back and there's some have fallen off. But for some of us oldies who know how to pivot, we're still hanging on tight. So in terms of for Canterbury and the Regional Land Transport Plan, so we do have the Wood End bypass in there, which is one of our top 3, which is really great to see there. And there's also the Ashburton Second Bridge and some Canterbury packages there. Now, the Ashburton Second Bridge is in the roads of regional significance. All of them are Crown funded except the Ashburton Bridge. So that's not a great one. And also then the other big one that we've got in our top 3 is PT Futures. So even though the GPS extended the upper end for public transport funding and its activity class ranges, NZTA has actually already agreed to fund at the bottom end of that range. So in terms of the NLTF decisions that are yet to come out, it's not looking great for public transport improvements across Canterbury, which I think is just discussed when you see what the public transport plan looks like. It also talks about system reform, which is something that this committee had talked about, and now that's being reflected in the GPS, which is really, really good in terms of funding, certainty around funding, alignment of GPS, LTPs, and the RLTPs in those documents, and more mechanisms for gathering revenue. So we've updated our work programme based on the new RTS to kind of respond to these things, and to be able to provide you some good advice to the reforms that are coming out. And I did also want to mention, it feels like it doesn't mention emissions reduction, but it actually refers to the updated emissions reduction plan, and that mentions transport emissions reduction in there. And so I've put more information in that section of the paper. So it does have integrated transport planning and funding, which is good for climate change, making sure that you're not building your way out of climate change, but that you're putting your infrastructure investment where there's actually large benefit. Talking about the emissions trading scheme as the key mechanism, a polluter pays mechanism, and also that shift to a full road user charge system, depending on how that works. That could give that feedback loop to people as to what the actual costs are of using the road and looking and then making choices for their travel behaviour based on what the actual costs are that they're incurring. So you might see that affecting some of the travel demand behaviours, depending on how that cascades out and rolls through. If it's quite easy for people to pay and they're not getting that feedback loop, then they might not make that connection, kind of like they do now with fuel excise duty. And yeah, so the second ERP is not quite clear on how it's going to support like freight sector, tourism sector. It's kind of like heavy vehicles generally, so it's still early days in terms of how those markets might change or shift or what it might look like for Canterbury, but happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Claire. I mean, there are some things in there that are interesting, like that there is an increase in funding, but we don't get any. There's an increase in PT funding, but it's all in the North Island. There is an increase in rail funding, but it's all in the North Island. So it's heavily North Island, which you can understand. That's where the votes are. Funding risk is significant for us in terms of bridges, and across the country, I guess, for bridges, sort of secondary bridges, rural bridges, those sorts of things, and massive bridges that you've got to replace in Karakia and Hawke's Bay. And again, you know, getting that Belfast to Pegasus motorway and the William bypass in terms of roads of national significance, you'd be pretty pleased with yourself. Well done. Maybe we'll get you lobbying down in Ashburton for the bridge down there. Yes, Dan. The rural intersection things in terms of Canterbury projects, the Ralston upgrade, the Hallsville start from the Ashburton Bridge are still things that we need to kick into. So questions for Claire on what she's told you or what's in the GPS. It is a reasonably depressing document for us.
Just seeking clarification, Claire, on the, and I'm thinking of the Pegasus bypass, William bypass project, in terms of walking and cycling funding for that. I understand that the actual roading part of that doesn't allow for walking and cycling facilities, but does that mean that it would have to be a separate application for walking and cycling associated with that project?
So how it's being done is that you would develop that project and you would put that in its entirety, and you would split off the amount that needs to go to walking and cycling into that activity class and the amount that's for the state highway to go into that activity class, and then it gets merged back together at the top. So it's yeah.
Not split hairs, but I can't quite find the reference right now, so I'll have to look for it in a second. I think that's true for most projects. I don't think that's true for roads of national significance, because I think the GPS is clear enough that the road of national significance doesn't have those components, so we wouldn't spend money planning for those components and then applying for them separately. I know I'm touching on a separate area for that. But the other point I was going to inject on, just to clarify, Peter, depending on who you meant by we in your comment, there is a significant increase in funding for the road controlling authorities around the table. I accept that isn't known to Canterbury, but everyone who has a maintenance budget in this has a significant increase in funding for their maintenance lines over this few years. I thought it would be remiss if I did not talk about
You've been clear. I don't think there's anything more. Okay, great.
Just one thing, Peter, is like I think we should write to the Minister in relation to the book trade dues. I think it's appalling that we are held to ransom by this government at the moment in relation to the refusal to do anything around the book trade dues. And that it's a vital link to both the South Island and the national economy, that there's an effective service running up there. And I think as a regional transport committee, we should be making it known that the way that the government is handling the debacle with the book trade dues is absolutely unacceptable, and they need to commit to some funding one way or another to replace the
I'd support Mayor Craig's call on Elisa. Could we look at potentially turning this around and suggesting that in their options that they consider utilising in Littleton, because that would make a huge difference rather than just relying on heavy freight going up and down the road to Picton. Out of Littleton would have a lot of benefits, like used to today. So as an option, that's something that could be considered further as part of that and the crafting of that, subject to Mayor Phil's endorsement. It's obviously his port.
At Nicola Willis's office this afternoon, I suggested exactly that. How we would be happy to have something like that take all the traffic off the road, because 99% of everything that jumps off the boat in Picton ends up here, one way or another. Now, if instead of building 2 big boats, which they've obviously not done here, build 3 small ones. Have them going back and forth to Picton, have one coming down here, or the other way around, or something like that. And we could use and talk to the government about them front, because we've got to build another wharf. Whether they got trains on them or not, I don't know. They probably will. But we'd be more than happy, I feel, to have that down here, because it takes so much pressure off the main drag force. Yeah.
Claire, I think you can step back, because this is going to get interesting here. So we've been doing a bit of work on this in terms of the ferries. Craig and also Dan, just to look at what is the complicating factor here, and I mean this, and we talked to a reasonably senior politician about this also, and the fact was that it was never going to work. Rail was never going to work in terms of that. They went on a look for a rail ferry over Europe, and they looked at one ferry. Europe's gone away from rail ferries. They've gone away from roll on roll. So the opportunity now is that freight's transferred into a baggage trolley type operation that can get more freight on a ferry. Because rail ferries, you've got to have straight lines, you can't get them. So there's all that complicating technical stuff. Now the point about a ferry into a rail ferry into Littleton is the fact that if you want a rail ferry into Littleton, it's probably not going to be as efficient as actually having coastal shipping from Tauranga down to Littleton. So what's the next best thing? The next best thing is to actually get some ferries that can get some freight, more freight on what you just said. Whatever system you want to use, and use the current system. It doesn't get around the fact of the point that people are making about freight on the road. Now, Southland, Otago, ourselves, and Marlborough are all concerned about it. We've got the Southland RTC thing coming up. I'm more than happy to actually write to get some clarification on it, because I don't know what you think, James, or whether you want to even get involved in this fight at all from an NZTA perspective. But I think some clarification is required for us actually, on how that is going forward. We've put a lot of work into Southland freight movements and freight stuff. We had a whole lot of opportunities that we saw with rail and getting that sorted out. Now, people are making decisions about rail ferries and they're not going to work out. Are we talking about this? Should we stop just talking about that? Like, should we talk about what might be possible? Is it a ferry implement? I don't know. I actually do not know. But the people that do know are the freight operators. They're the people that will put it through the most efficient channel they can, and they're all sitting out there driving trucks around at the moment. So maybe we should have another who. I don't know. Other opportunity is that when I was at Lockdown Conference last week, Horizons Regional Council and Greater Wellington Regional Transport just done a deal with this probably the main one actually, done a deal with the government to put on modular trains between Palmerston North and so they're going to extend PT service over to Palmerston North. And modular trains, I think they're maybe 4 carriages or 5 carriages, and they're getting like 15, 16 of them. And they're electric, so they can run on the electric system, but they can also run on the open system. They would be ideal to run here in the South Island. They've got that ability to do that. The offer is, if you want some, jump in with us, we'll get some. But we've got a long way to go before we actually get that decision. But that's the sort of stuff that's going on in North Island. And whether we want to get some advice on that or not. But Darren Palmer, who's the chair of Wellington, who's leading that for the government, has suggested that maybe we have a conversation about that. That's just another thing. Just put the recommendation. Anyone want to speak on this?
Can I just make a comment? I mean, it's, we've brought the two together, taking people for reasons, but I think we need to consider should they be together and should it be people in cars, and you focus on that transport of moving people, which is could be car ferries, and then you've got your coastal shipping solution. You've got to be careful that we've found that this is actually why we aren't as supportive against for the Christchurch Stadium. The problem, I think at the moment we have 300,000 people that want to go to a running action meeting, and it's that flow-on effect of that tourism dollars that comes through our communities. The same with the of all those North Canterbury areas that receive a ferry that people come up and further south. So there's tourism dollars and there's other things that will be affected by considerations just around bringing in a ferry into Livingston that is both people and place. So there's lots of things to consider in this conversation.
Can I make a comment on that? I think the solutions for some of that are in this room. Because you get to lead with communities in those things. And, I mean, we're not a big community in the South Island actually trying to solve some of these issues. Yeah. And Craig and then Sam and their gang.
The shipping to smaller ferries. I think now is the time for me to say that you need a safe harbour between there and here. Have I got an offer for you? Even though we have been scratched out of that plan, which we will discuss tomorrow. Yeah, I thought so.
I support us advocating for a solution, and so we could spend 3 hours debating what that looks like. Yeah, and so I just wonder whether we actually need some time put aside when we're not trying to crunch a RTC meeting together in the late afternoon to actually unpack this a little bit more, because I'd like to understand some of the things that have been raised and think about how we might get a bit more specific about our advocacy desire and the outcome. Like, overall, I totally support what we're doing and wanting the coastal shipping. I agree with Nigel's comments around we need to be careful about what the unintended consequences of shifting things can look like, and there's also Nelson, top to south to think about as well with that people movement. I just think we need to schedule some time for the conversation rather than trying to have a rushed one now.
And thanks, Sam. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you don't do that another option is there, but I think even if we're writing to the Minister, we're up for the conversation and looking at what is not only for Canterbury but for the South Island. So I think there's just an opportunity there that would be a good chance for us to not miss. So you'll schedule something for us at some stage, Chair Peter, and we can bunny hop all around the issue as was so eloquently put forward.
Yeah, we'll talk to that. There's a piece of work here that Jess is going to talk to you a bit later about that, but this is the tied 2 hours of the week, isn't it? And it's, I mean, I take your point, Sam. I take your point in that, this here is about how do we get the real things on. Like, it really is jumping those small hurdles to get there, and I don't want to prolong that, but I think we need some decent energy if we're going to have that discussion. Happy to do that. Because there are a lot of moving parts here. And do you know the interesting thing about this? A bit of parochialism in there. Me and Becky. Hey, look, thank you, Claire, for your work on that. And we'll put that. If there's any further discussion on it, if there isn't, we'll put the motion. Someone like to move that, please. So thank you, Nigel, and thank you, Murray. So moved by Mayor Bowen and seconded by Mayor Black. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, carried. Now we're going to do a light touch on this next couple of things because we've got a wee workshop that we want to run after this. So 8.4 is Jess, this South Island Chairs, Ciara, so you just have a run through on that, thanks.
Kia ora. I trust you've all done your homework and all read the paper. So yeah, our previous South Island Regional Transport Committee Chairs Group was on the 8th of July, and that was a meeting online. Key topics at this meeting were discussions around the GPS that was released. Kiwi Rail shared their timelines for their rail network investment program, and that included the new government direction for the Golden Triangle. Our New Zealand Transport Agency regional relationship managers, they shared their updated work programs with the new government direction, focusing on roads of national significance. Conversations also did briefly touch on the ageing infrastructure across the South Island, particularly bridges. The chairs received guest presentations on South Island priority routes following a major earthquake, and also the Canterbury Road Status Reporting Project. Both of these presentations were related to resilience of our transport network, ensuring collaborative planning for a disaster, but once again highlighted the need for collaborative, well-planned investment across our networks. Following consultation and submissions on our regional land transport plans around the South Island, there was a strong theme from communities that reflected the desire for inter-regional public transport in some form. The chairs have requested that staff provide further advice on the feasibility and scoping or investigating work for the potential to progress an inter-regional public transport option at a South Island level. Other agenda items included agreement to a scope to undertake a South Island resilience priorities project, and also develop a South Island story, which will be an advocacy piece for the South Island Transport Network. And our next meeting will be held in person on the 11th of November. I'll take the report as read and happy to address any questions.
A little bit to add in there, Ciara.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So just picking up on that last conversation, I think this is just connecting the dots between these conversations, because what you were just talking about in terms of ferries and coastal shipping and movement of people from one port to another, that's definitely part of the work that we're thinking around the freight movement across the South Island. So just trying to connect the dots, make sure we're not duplicating, but at the same time, we can bring through the work that we're doing in the South Island context with the other RTCs across the South Island into the context of the Canterbury picture, so that we can help support your advocacy in that regard. We have a briefing quickly after this as we get through the agenda today. One of the items in the material that you were circulated was around freight in the South Island, which we can touch on, which may also require a bit more of a potentially dedicated workshop, if you will, to unpack what that looks like and actually provide some of that direction. It also then helps us to input that information into what Ciara just mentioned, the South Island story. And this is the case for investment between the government to invest in the South Island in its broader context, because what's good for the South Island is good for Canterbury, is good for Greater Christchurch, is good for Christchurch, and what is good for Christchurch is good for Greater Christchurch, Canterbury, and South Island. So how do we join these pictures? If you like, tell the joined up story so that we can actually get the work out.
I wonder, and I don't want to be a bit of a pain in the ass here, but this piece of work here at this time of the day is probably not real receptive audience with you guys. I know what you like. Look at the stand, but I should obviously also be looking at Dan and others. But I wonder, with your suggestion that we have some energy time available for this stuff and the stuff that we've talked about, whether we combine that with special, even if it's a route, even if it is, to do that. Yeah.
Can I just touch on that? I think the purpose of this was to outline what the regional transport transport work program is, and of course part of the feedback probably on that would be that we could then have maybe a dedicated session if it's on freight or let's say whatever aspects of that program that you wish to explore further, but obviously the freight one sounds like
I'll foreshadow the route to you. just see where we get to with that. But thank you. You can skip that. I think we'll just put the recommendation up. Right, someone like to move that, please. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Craig. So moved by Mayor Bolton, second by Mayor Rowley. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, carried. We'll move to 8.5, which is the report from the chair. I'm going to take that as read, and I'm going to move it and look for a seconder. Thank you, Mayor Bolton. Anything in that report that you want to talk about? There's nothing in that report that you want to talk about. All those in favour of receiving this report from the chair of the Canterbury Regional Transport Committee, please say aye. All those against, that's carried, so thank you very much for that. So just catching up where we are now. I saw Steve Lowndes when he was chair of the Canterbury Regional Transport Committee do a committee meeting in 20 minutes. All right, so I just need I need a mover for a resolution to go into public excluded, please. Someone like to move. Thank you, James, and thank you, Grant. So moved by James Cagle, seconded by Councillor Grant Edge. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, carried. The first thing is the. We're going to shut down. Okay, so we're back in public now. So the next meeting of this committee will be on the 28th of November 2024. And I now declare this meeting closed at 5:35. And I'll finish on the Karakia. Inuia, Kiti Uru, Tapanui, Otana, Kia Waikia, Kia Mama, Tina Kauti, Tina Na, Ki Wairua, Iti Ara Takata, Koiraya, Rongo, Whakakapi, Kia Ronga, Kia Tina, King, Haumie, Huie, Pai, Over to you, Claire.